In this episode, we're speaking to Karchun Leung, who's been working in publishing for the past 20 years. First with his own self-published music magazine, Break, a newspaper, then a monthly magazine through Hong Kong City Magazine, then a weekly with China's most influential style magazine, Modern Weekly Style. With a background in writing and visual merchandising, he has held various positions like Deputy Editorial Director and Senior Fashion Director, going on to become Editor-in-Chief for Numero China. Welcome, Karchun. It's great to have you with us from Shanghai.
Thank you.
So, you've risen to become one of China's most influential figures in fashion publishing, but I'm interested in the beginning. What made you want to enter the field of fashion media in the first place? What was your first job in publishing?
Well, actually, I was studying something completely unrelated to what I've been doing right now. I was like my background is in accounting, so it's like more related to finance, business, and stuff. But then after right before the graduations, I don't want to do something related to finance because it seems quite boring. So at that moment, I like music, I like skateboarding, I like that kind of like maybe trendy or funny stuff, which is I'm in Hong Kong. So I'm more into this like subculture or hip culture, that kind of stuff. So I have a chance to get into a newspaper, which is the Sun newspaper in Hong Kong. And that was like the whole story began. And when the first time when I was joining the newspaper, which is like to 2000, and that was the time is like almost starting the first wave of the internet, that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of heaven, but at the same time, it's like I was based in Hong Kong because I born in Hong Kong, and then I start with newspaper, but I'm writing more related to men's, so which is related to gadgets, sneaker, a little bit of fashion, and a lot of like streetwear, and then a lot of like street culture stuff. And then after maybe a year, someone from the fashion department has left, and then they were asking me if I want to join fashion. And it's quite interesting at that moment. I would not say I start like my love of fashion like really beginning. Like a lot of like media people, they said that okay, they read Vogue because their mom read Vogue. My mom didn't read Vogue at all. And like my family has nothing related to fashion.
And you've held the position as Editor-in-Chief for Numero China for the past 7 years, and last month you resigned. Why?
I would say it's like 15, 16, or even like 18 years. I work on newspaper, I work on monthly, I work on weekly, I work on my own like independent music magazine. So I've been working across a lot of like different areas in terms of like media. But I have to say media has changed a lot from what I like magazine until like I work too much on magazine. So I think it's time for me to do something different, because like I think I like fashion a lot, and I don't think I like magazine as much as I like fashion. So that's why after 20 years, I think I want to do more thing direct related to fashion. And media was one of my tools before. I didn't say that like media doesn't have the value right now. I absolutely doesn't say that. I actually think that like media have a lot of things to explore, and magazine still have a lot of like different type of new directions and stuff. But at the same time, I think I would rather read a magazine which is created by a young generation more than like by myself, because I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah. And that was kind of like one of the things, because like I was talking to a lot of like young editor, and then I have to say, a lot of people were asking me, so do you think that this is the end of the fashion magazine or like fashion media or whatever? And then I said, it is not. Actually, I always like to read independent magazine. I like to read like new magazine done by new people because I've been there. Because I work on my independent magazine like we didn't sleep. We worked like four people. We did everything. We did all the editings. We check like proofreading each other articles. We do the layout by ourselves, and that was the passions part. And that's exactly what you would do when you start your own magazine. And magazine is something like it's a value. Like you have to when you want to do a magazine because it's something you believe. You want to share the value, and that was very important for that part. And then so that's why I like to read independent magazine. And then it's just because I think I have do it for a very long time, and then I still like create, and then I still like fashion. It just I feel that I have done a lot on fashion magazine or fashion media, so that's why this is one of the thing led me to rethink about, and then that's why I resigned.
And it's also interesting thinking about exercising, creativity and your interest in fashion in other frameworks, beyond the printed magazine. But we'll get back to that a little bit later. Modern Media Group, the leading Chinese media conglomerate and company that owns Modern Weekly, distributing 900,000 copies a week across all major cities in China, as well as owning the licenses for Numero China, InStyle, Nowness. What was your experience like working with Modern Media Group, and how did that differ from the smaller and perhaps more independent publishing projects that you've previously worked on?
I need to think about if I'm going to write an article for this magazine, I have to think about how to make it different from the others. Because different magazines have different position, and so they sort of have different audience, and the audience have different type of background. So it's like for weekly or newspaper, you have to write something much more mass, easy to be understood, or you don't have to be like too inside, But if you are going to do something more related to like numerals, so you can't write the same article, You have to write something like more in depth, because most of the people are not going to read numeral. Like the people who will read numeral is actually like the designer or like a insider, because they want to they want to have like a different point of view, or and that was some of like the positioning we will think about when we're trying to do, especially when at a later stage when I was doing the chief editor, I would think a lot about like who I want to reach. So at that point, Modern Media Group have so many different type of magazines which I have worked on, and then it teach me a lot about like how we actually we react with our readers by doing different type of content. So it's like even for the same story, we will write it in a very different way, or or we edited it with different way. And sometimes like for Modern Weekly, we would do something which is more comprehensive. Like we have to tell people about the background, how it goes, what is the inspiration, and how we got to what we know about it on this. And for numeral, we would sort of like touch about like we would be much more critical about these issues, why this is coming up, and then how it could be inspiring the others. Or we will actually like maybe we invite some designer or invite like an artist to collaborate on the issues to create something new. So it's a very different type of level of creative in terms of content, I mean.
And I can also imagine it's quite different, structurally in terms of operations, financially, visibility, working with such a big conglomerate. But as you mentioned, fashion has been completely transformed during the past, decade, from printed media to the digital boom and the .com wave. And the ways in which fashion is presented has changed, from the glossy print magazines to digital articles to Instagram to WeChat to TikTok video. How do you maximize the digital experience then compared to the more tactical and tangible in a print magazine? What can an online platform do that print cannot?
I would say I have not been fully utilized my time and my ability on digital platform because I'm much more old school and my background is working on printed media. So when I was thinking about printed media, I would still do a way, like which is starting from printed media point of view to start the thing. And then I will use digital platform to, as a channels, to express the same content or like the same idea which I was starting from the printed media. When I was doing this, I was thinking about more like, what are we transforming a printed media? Because like when we do magazine before, as I said, like it's always, when we are thinking about like printed media or like where I'm coming from, it's like a magazine is a magazine. But then with the digital platform, a magazine become more like a brand. So this name become a brand, which is like kind of like a trust and a representation about like a community or like a group or like that type of content. It's kind of like a friend of yours, which is suggesting you like good music or like good fashion. I mean that was the whole idea. But for digital platform, it's like a lot of people would always think about when we were trying to do like a magazine, we have to also do the digital platform. They were like the same or like they were reflecting the same things. But in somehow, I think that may not be right. Because if you read a magazine, if you read Vogue, let's say, or a numeral printed version, it doesn't mean that you have to follow their digital platform because the digital platform is for different type of audience. So if you are like a readers for the printed magazine because of the content and about like the enjoyment of printed magazine, it doesn't require them to also follow you on digital. Why? Because it just we don't need it because on digital platform I want different type of like informations or different type of like content. So that's why when I was started to do numeral or modern weekly on digital, I would like to do something different.
Yeah, and I think there's this understanding, for publishers, perhaps, especially publishers working with print, that, the digital medium and the print medium are competitors, but I think the real magic is, as you say, maximizing the two different formats, the two different mediums, approaching them differently, print being more sort of something you need to really put your attention to, beautiful visuals, in-depth text stories, and that physical experience. Whereas the digital is, an incredible tool. It's a contested term, but it's an incredible tool for, having instant access to, information, to content, video, and a lot of interactive formats. So I think it offers a good range of options. What's your favorite medium to work with?
Different medium have like their own advantage to express a certain type of ideas, and at the same time it can reach out some different type of people. So I won't say which one is the best, but because I've been doing a lot on printed media, so I would say like if you really ask me which is my favorite, I think printed media is still my favorite. Yeah, and then it's like on internet, like everyone read an article rather than like a whole PDF. Now, if like I'm going to send you like a digital PDF and then you just flip it like for a few pages and then you got bored. But because you have a habit to do like to read things on screen by like very targeted. So you do search something or like okay, I done an interview with Ralph Simon and then So if you want to check that out with like a Ralph Simon interview, you just go search, and then there are like 10 of these Ralph interview online, and then you can all go through it, right? But like for a magazine, it's different. For a magazine, I can run it like, okay, so maybe this time my theme is more about futuristic. So, and I think Ralph is a very futuristic designer in a certain way, and also Nicholas Gascaya is a very futuristic designer, and they can be in the same magazine, and they were telling you different type of futuristic, and that was some of the thing I think which is lacking, because we're not curating, you know. Yeah, people were doing like, if I'm no offense on blogger or writer or whatever, it just there are a different types of things when you go for a magazine, because magazine is arranged by orders, and then from time to time we actually have to place different thing on different place, and then it's like after a really serious article on serious issues, like a lot of work, and then you give them a break with like a few like very minimal visual, and then it comes back with like another long interview. These are the approach we were trying to curate, and then we can only make it on a printed media.
Fashion publications today depend heavily on commercial partnerships to survive, financially and artistically. With the decline of traditional advertising formats and ad revenue, fashion media seems to replace ad agencies completely. Content campaigns, storytelling seems to be this new form of advertising for many, or actually most brands today. How do you approach this in your work?
I actually think that this is kind of funny, because when we were trying to, if we think about as a person, as a reader, if we want to read a magazine, you don't normally mind the advertisement. You will flip it, and then you think, okay, this is interesting. Yeah, like there are so many advertisements, and you think that it's completely fine, and you're happier for the magazine if they have a lot of like advertising. But like when I was changing my point of view into part of the curating part of the magazine, and then I've been seeing a lot of shiftment of the attentions of like fashion media or fashion publishing. They used to care about the readers, and then they always mentioning about the content and the inspiration and stuff, and how they want to change or help the industry and stuff. And then now they just talk about money. That's just completely fine. You talk about money because we need money to do stuff, right? But if we only care about money, and then we even and at the same time, it's like there are a lot of proportion, and most of our proportions of our work is focusing on getting advertisers money. We actually leaving our touch with our readers. And then if we don't have a reader, so where is the magazine? It's like there was no meaning to have a magazine without mentioning the readers, right? So I think it's quite interesting when I meet some of the people in the industry, although they were very successful to transform their media company into like an advertising agency, which is, I think they were great on making money. But at the same time, it's like, I think this is kind of interesting because you're losing your core value, which is your leading position with your readers or inspiring the industry, and you just sold them to become like an advertising agency. And your readers or like the people, they were not stupid. So when you are focusing too much on this, you don't have something like quite inspiring, like a real editorial. People don't need to read your magazine because like there was so many advertisement on the world right now, Even like sometimes branded advertisement is more interesting than normal content from a magazine, I have to say. I think this is one of the, within these few like maybe these 2-3 years, sometimes like what this what type of like collaborations or like the thing the brand was doing is actually better than a lot of magazine doing like the story. So you see what is important is actually the content itself. Like there is no always didn't care who made it. Like no like a normal reader, they don't care about who create the content. The major thing is the content itself.
So now that you've resigned, are you planning any new ventures in fashion publishing?
I don't know. I will keep on doing publishing. I might do something more related to podcasts first. And then I'm working a lot with like independent Chinese designer. Cause I think rather than I was doing interview to put like an interview with them on a magazine, I prefer working with them. So when I was working with them, I would talk about like how do I look at how to develop the collection, how to change the proportions of the clothes, how to communicate with this collection, how to present it. Yeah. So I don't know. For publishing, I have think about to do something online, which first of all, because I do a lot of interview with like with a lot of designer already, so I might we want to have like a platform to put all my interviews in, and then I have the motivative. I keep on doing it. Yeah, and then but at the same time, I'm very interested on doing dialogue. It's like conversation, and with actually luckily with this virus, I've been doing a lot of like you and me. If we don't have these occasions to do like Zoom meeting, we might not be meeting each other, you know. So there are a lot of like ways we can communicate with each other, and by communicating, you can always inspire myself or each other to do something new. So I think this is one of the things I was saying might not be only about, or maybe we can sort of like redefining what we want to putting on like publishing. It can be books, it can be like digital, yeah. I think it's more related to like a communication or a conversation. So we need to have more people talking about fashion rather than just buying fashion. And then now you have like so many different ways to get into it, to fashion industry. You can do your podcast, you can be like a KOL, you can do TikTok, you can be like a YouTuber. So everyone, there are so many examples like people were doing fashion related content and then they have their own follower.
So lastly and more broadly, what changes would you like to see in the fashion industry at large?
Okay, let's put it like this. It's like when we are in fashion industry, we always listen. Well, there are always someone saying that it's like, it used to be better. It's like the collection is better before, and now it's boring. Like everything is better than before. Now it's like actually we have more designer, and we have bigger market. We have more ways to communicate, but it always before is better. So like first of all, I think this is quite interesting. It's not only happen on fashion; it happens on a lot of things. And then I think this is quite interesting. It's because first of all, it's easier to say so. Because we all come from the past. So it's always easier to say, it used to be better, so now it's bullshit. You know? If we try to put it in that way, it's easier. But I'm more interested on what next. So, and what next require a lot of attention about like how you observe the whole thing. You're looking for new talent. You're seeing how people react on fashion, to react on each other, the way of communicating, how people dressing, and I always find this is very inspirational in some way. But sometimes, because we have been doing a lot of new things before, so it's like like fashion, you know, a shirt or t-shirt or whatever, you have two hands, you have a hat, so anyhow you need it to be put it like that. You can't have like four hands. And then so a lot of new original thing has already been done, but the attention or the value or like I would say the attentions of people would changing related to your life. So now it's more like I'm more interested to see how people transforming different ideas into something new, rather than they will keep on talking about, oh, this is not new or whatever, you know, of course, but like, how can you create something completely new? And at the same time, even if you can see something completely new, but because you cannot define it as that new, so you don't know what it is. So I'm more interested to see how the possibility of like all these things transform it into something new. So, but by doing this, you have to constantly communicate with different type of people, like old people, new people, listen to them, and then to create a dialogue. And one of the quite interesting thing about the communication online is like because you don't really know how old are them or who are them. You don't know about their background. You don't know about like what are they good at that or what. But like sometime the communication is much more flat, so you can get like some idea but you have to be more like a listener. So you have to be much more open to receive those information and then to make a judgment, and then you can try to do something new. I think this is quite important for and recently, I think within like since last year when I was in like a fashion contest, it called ITS, so it's in Italy. Yeah, I was part of the judge, and then I see this shiftment of the attentions of the news designer from they were started to do like a new product or new collection or expressing creative. Now they more want to express a value. It can be like a value which like sustainability is one of the value. But I think it's more interesting about the cultural value. So the cultural value, sustainability can be part of the cultural value you care about, that's for sure. But the cultural value is more related to your cultural background. And that cultural background, it defines a lot about your understanding on fashion. And this made the major differences about like the Western and the Japanese, the Chinese, the Thailand, because we all come from different region, and we have like very different type of knowledge about fashion. And some of them, they were using fashion to express like a way of like a ritual or a tradition or And some of them, they were like from the West, like let's say London. The thing which is related to fashion is a very specific thing which is quite related to music, or like the British, they want to wear something like kind of weird which you don't understand with a sense of humor. So and that's slightly different way of wearing. It defines you a lot. It defines your character. When you were trying to understand more people using fashion to express themselves, you can have a lot of story to tell. And these are the thing actually I think is the key of fashion's next. Because we have after 90s, after we have the new style, what we call like mix and match, all the style has been mix and match. So it's like before we have like space age, we have punk, we have like rock and roll. But after 20s, we don't have that much of new style. So you can have like romantics, you have like body shoot, you have sports, you have what, but all these style has been defined around the 90s. And after mix and match, we like everyone kind of like mix and match of everything. And the next things I've been constantly think about within these 5 years is like, okay, so if we are a magazine, we work with designer, and then we still cannot create new sort of style, then like we can only always go back. So the new 90s, the new 80s, so we have to keep on repeating like all this new or whatever. So which is completely bullshit, right? So that's why I was doing a lot of project which is more related to region. So I go to like different places in China to try to figure it out. So maybe because of the climate or whatever, so these people will wear things in this way. So can this be modernized into something like a different way of wearing? And then, so these are the things which is more related to the culture. And I think that it can help us to try to create new type of style or something new from fashion. And I would not say this is completely new, because like, let's say John Galliano was doing a lot of things related to travel when he was in Dior. And that was some sort of like the same ideas too. So, I mean, we are kind of going back, but at the same time, so we were trying to use this logic to create something new. So, and that was one of the things, that's what I call is more like a transformations to look for, to discover the new possibility on fashion. And I hope it works on not only about the media, it can work on the industry itself, the ways of communication on, yeah. So that's probably what I was thinking about right now.
Karchun, thank you so much for taking the time for this talk. And, you know, it was truly special. And I wish you good luck on everything you will continue to do in publishing and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. So keep in touch.